All right, here's the kit I got from Amazon. Looks like you got your adapters. There's an option on the link that I got that has a optional mounting thing. It has this mounting bracket attached to the lid, but it has an additional mounting bracket you can get. I'm guessing that's an extra O-ring. You have like your mesh metal, like I mentioned, all your adapters, some plumber's tape, and then you have this hose that comes with it. I bought this extra. I'm sure you've seen in other videos and forums. This is 3/8 inner diameter fuel hose, but it works, it's a high pressure rubber hose. About 5 feet. I don't think I'll need more than 5 feet. It was like $7. So I opened this thing up. This was a little tight, but you could take it off. But the thing that I couldn't get off without tools was this little, I guess, mesh filter housing that goes into the lid. It goes in right here. I could not get it out by hand, so I got a rag and some channel locks. I got it out, and then once you get it out, it's closed off because it has the little baffle things or whatever on both ends. So I couldn't get this middle seam to separate, so I have to get a second pair of channel locks, get the rag, wrap it in there, grab both ends, and kind of pry it open. But I finally got it open, so now I can open it up, cut a piece of that. I don't know why they send you an entire thing. It'd be nice if it was already cut to size, but you got to cut some off and kind of shove it in there. I guess it's extra once this one gets oily, but you shove it in there, make sure you don't have any loose metal remnants, and then close it back up and reattach it. And I'll do that, I guess, first, and then next we can go to the car and mount everything up. Alright, I got the engine cover off, just doing some test fitting with the bracket. There's a lot of places people mount them, but I'm going to mount, I have some poser delete, as you can see here, and then I have one of the mounting holes there. So with the bracket that came with it, as I showed you earlier, it was straight. This piece that's right here up top, I had bent it just with my bare hands because I don't have a whole lot of cutting tools right now, and I drilled an additional hole because the diameter of the bolt that goes into the manifold for this imposer is bigger than the holes that are on this mount. As you can see, I have like a nut, couple lock washers, and a washer on there. I was just doing some test fitting. I don't want to cut this bolt yet because if I cut it, I could mess up the threads and then I can't mount it. So this might be a temporary thing until I can get, the proper length bolt in there. But I just bent that. Basically, I'm going to have it mounted here and kind of pointed at the radiator, and then the catch can is going to be right here because I tried every different way, having it this way so the catch can's pointed this way. I don't like the hoses coming this way. It's too tight over here. And I really don't even want to mess around with putting it anywhere else. If you have a imposer still and you want to keep it, you're going to have to look up some alternate methods, alternate locations. I think back on the firewall or somewhere between the intake and the battery, people mount them, but I'm going to do it up here because it's easy access for removing it as well. And, don't have to really remove anything to get the actual canister out when it's full of oil. So I think it's 5 bolts with a manifold. I'm going to see if I can leave the purge valve line on, and I already disconnected the MAF, and then there's another sensor right, it's kind of hard to see, it's that gray sensor down there. You can't really see it, but you can see the tip of the connector. Let's see if I can get a better angle. It's going to be this sensor right in there. I'm going to disconnect that, and there should be a third sensor, but I think you have to pull the manifold back to see that third sensor. I'll show that to you once I get the manifold pulled back. So what I did with the line here is I disconnected this one from the manifold itself and just unclipped the ones up here, so I don't have to remove the actual mounting hardware. I got the 5 bolts out. I got most of them out with an impact, but some of them I had to use an extension. I used one of my Harbor Freight flex tip extensions. It kind of helped out. Helps you wiggle into certain areas, and then I kind of kept the bolts in order. I think they're all the same length, but that's just how I do things sometimes. But just kept them in order up there, and that's just kind of the order that they go back in. And I should be able to pull back the manifold a little bit now. So I got the manifold pulled back a little bit. Try to get an angle here for you guys. As you can see on the right side, that's the sensor I got out. The one that's right there, I got that one out. I think the one that's hard to reach, oh sorry, I got the one out over there. This is the one you have to get out. I after the fact, so you kind of push down here, and I'm going to pull back. Another thing I forgot to mention was there's the hose clamp down there for the charge pipe. I got a 7mm socket. I got it on there kind of loosened, and then it kind of wiggled it out a little bit. It came out pretty easily. I think I'm good. I think the only other thing is I have to disconnect the PCV hose right here. I'm going to squeeze the tabs here and pull it back, hopefully. So I have the intake out. As you can see, I still have this hose connected. The reason why I didn't remove the purge valve hose is because this connector, I actually replaced the hose recently because they go bad for everybody. But it's really hard to remove because you got to unclip this and then unclip it from the back. Once it's like this, it's way easier, but I'm just going to leave it for now. I guess I could just unhook it real quick because I have it right there. So down here, as you can see, the charge pipe, you can always put, I'm probably going to put some paper towels in there so nothing gets stuck. When you're unhooking those connectors earlier, you're going to have to unhook or remove the actual harness pigtail from the manifold, because you can't pull the manifold out if it's in there. As you can see, I broke this one. So you can reconnect it if you want. It goes to, I don't know, it looks like a knock sensor, but not a knock sensor, but it looks like a position sensor, but I could be wrong. Same on this side, this one and this one. You can reconnect them, or sorry, not those two, but the pigtail itself you can reconnect if you want, because it goes back onto the manifold, or it has to be disconnected from the manifold. And there is one more connector that is at the very bottom that goes into the throttle body that you can't see. Once you get the manifold pulled up a little bit, you can kind of see it. You got to pull this red tab back and then press down and pull out. And that, I think, plugs in all the way down here at the bottom where the throttle body is. But at this point, you have plenty of room. Here's the PCV valve and then the hose. I want to see if I can get it removed without having to apply heat to it, but I guess we shall see. So as you can see, the little green stem right here of the PCV valve. So what I ended up doing was, because the car is already warm, I literally just kind of twisted this like this a little bit, and then kind of slowly started pulling back. I'm sure this is brittle. I'm sure that's brittle. I didn't want to break anything. My car has almost 140K on it, so I didn't want to break anything. It worked out. This is a good time to take a light and look down in your valves and see how it looks, and see if you need a blasting done, like a walnut blasting. And I think mine definitely needs it. I can't do it right now. I do want to try and do it myself at one point, but this is a good time to, since you have the manifold off, to look down there and assess it for sure. So as I mentioned before, I have the 3/8 hose, and like most others, I'm going to use the 3/8 adapters. There are two other sizes in there. I'm going to use these. I think the PCV valve is the same size, and then here, you can focus, I think it'll be the same size here. I got to get this hose off. So basically what you want to do is, you have two hoses. I split the 5-foot hose that I have in half. You're going to connect one end here, and that's going to go into the inside, the inlet side where it says in right there, of your catch can. It's going to filter through, hopefully catch all the oil, and then you're going to take your other hose, put it on the outside, the outlet side, and that's going to run to this little T adapter that is going to be connected over here to the bottom of your intake manifold, which you pulled off and which we unclipped earlier by pushing these two and pulling back. We're going to keep this adapter. Just get rid of the hose, essentially, this little hose. There are other ways to do it. I've seen kits where basically, I think Damon has one where basically what you can do is you can have the kit. I think I actually still have the adapter. I don't know, this is probably not it. This is for something else. But you can essentially have an adapter that goes to here on your block off plate and pull the oil out here. And I wanted to do that because it's kind of like the lazier, easier route. But then if you really think about it, I mean, it makes a whole lot of sense to stop the oil here and not even let it get into your intake. Because, I mean, you have a smaller diameter here, you have a better chance of getting all the oil out there before it gets to this point where you have, you know, you can get oil everywhere inside of there. And I am going to try to clean up the other side of the intake. I guess I can see if I can flip it over and show you. The gaskets seem okay. They're not too brittle, but I am going to clean up the actual inside of the intake a little bit, or I mean what I can reach. I'm not going to replace the gaskets right now, but they shouldn't be hard if I have to in the future. Yeah, I guess I'll get the hoses on here. Alright, so we got one hose with the hose clamp, 3/8 diameter, connected to the valve on the actual car, and then we have the other one connected to the little 90-degree adapter for the intake. I don't know if I called it a T-valve or this, not a T-valve, it's angled adapter. One thing to note is this kit only came with two hose clamps. So what you're going to have to buy additionally, unless you don't already have it, is 2 more hose clamps, and obviously the hose, as I mentioned earlier. This is fuel line hose. I'll try to link it below, and I'll link the kit below as well. This is a universal kit, but it's a pretty good hose. It's fuel hose. It should be, I mean, it's high PSI. It should be, you know, heat resistant and whatnot. I'm probably going to shorten the hoses once everything's attached, because it really doesn't need to go that far. As you know, once everything's assembled, you're going to have right about here is where the canister is going to be, the catch can. But yeah, I'm going to hold on. I guess I can hook this one up once I get close to installing it. It just clicks in, just pushes on. You don't have to do anything. And get everything reassembled, get all the connectors reassembled. Make sure you don't forget, you have 1, 2, 3, and then you have the charge pipe. I'm going to reconnect actually the harnesses and then just click them into the actual manifold once I get there. So really it's 1, and then I had disconnected the MAF sensor, and I think it's like I'm assuming it's, you know, a fuel rail pressure sensor or something, but I disconnected both of those earlier because they were in my way. But yeah. And then charge pipe hooked back up, and then the 5 bolts will go back in. On a side note, throttle body looks super clean. Not sure if it's because of the constant oil, but it looks really good. There is some residual oil I'm going to clean off, but hopefully, you know, this catch can stops any more residual oil. But overall, it actually looks pretty good. It's not nearly as bad as the valves are. I don't know if I can get an angle on the valves here. Kind of hard to shine, and yeah, you can't really see, but either way, something to check while you're in here. Okay, so I have everything snugged up. Still need to tighten everything. I have connectors hooked up. The 2 connectors that are behind the manifold, the 2 gray ones on the side, on each side, what I did was I connected them beforehand, and then as I'm pulling the manifold in, I clicked in the actual harness into the like the rivet assembly that goes into the manifold. That way you're not fumbling around trying to plug it in. All you gotta do is slide it in, sort of, and then you can set it in. And then with the charge pipe, I just kind of wiggled it in and pushed it down. It slid on super easy, and it's all the way flush, and I haven't even tightened it yet. I pushed it down and then pulled the manifold back up a little bit. Line it up, make sure all the gaskets are lined up and not getting pinched or have fallen off. Snug all the bolts down. So for the sequence, no specific sequence that I know of, you can go and crisscross or end to end or whatever you want to do. It should be 13 foot-pounds or 156 inch-pounds for the intake manifold bolts. Alright, I got this torqued down to 156 inch-pounds. I'm going to now confirm in and out for the hoses, and I'm going to get my bracket mounted up and hopefully get everything lined up properly. Okay, so here's how I have it looking at the moment. So, just side note, this would be a whole lot easier, or it will be a whole lot easier if you have an aftermarket cold air intake. I do plan on getting a cold air intake. I currently have a green filter, but as you can see, it's stock. I'm going to get a cold air intake. If you had a cold air intake, you don't have this here. You have essentially just the pipe, and then you have the filter over here. So if you don't have this, it makes the job a whole lot easier. I already did shorten the hoses a bit. I cut off, I don't know, like 8-9 inches. The bracket will be cut later on, maybe somewhere right here. I have the bolt in there. I have the can mounted on here. I have the hoses kind of going out from where they are and then under and then in. I had to remove the bracket from the can so I could put the mounting bolt into the top hole of the mounting bracket on here, so I can lower the can down a little bit because this was in the way. But once I get a cold air intake, it'll be much more serviceable, much easier access, and it'll be more visible. Like I mentioned earlier, you do need 2 more hose clamps. I'm going to get 2 more hose clamps. I'm just kind of test fitting everything now. I have a hose clamps as you saw on the other side, but there's the hose clamps there. And the last thing to do is just to attach the bottom half. So I got some of that mesh cut up, a really small part of it, and put in there. It's pretty compact. I'm going to probably keep the rest of it and cycle it out if I need it. Now I just need to reach under and screw this in. I probably should have done that while it was still out and not installed. I don't want to take it back out again, but I'm going to reach in, screw this in, and then screw the actual canister on. Alright, so it's all put together. Not the prettiest install, but I didn't have to fabricate anything. I just had to drill 1 hole, which is nice. The canister went on pretty easily. I have plenty of room down there to put my hand down there. The dipstick is a great addition. I didn't get the one with the little filter you can put up top, but I don't really like that anyways. But yeah, just needs 2 more hose clamps, and I'm going to modify this bracket later. Maybe, I mean, I probably won't need anything else, but it would be nice to have something a little sturdier. But this actually is pretty good once you get this tightened down, and then make sure you get this tightened down if it's just 1 bolt especially. I might throw in the second bolt just to have some preventing it from rotating too much, but overall it's pretty sturdy and it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it.